And to this now, Deputy President Paul Mashatile is to address the 8th Annual Ubuntu Awards on behalf of President Cyril Ramaphosa. The award ceremony is aimed at recognizing South African industry leaders, eminent persons, as well as ordinary South African citizens for their distinguished service, as well as contribution to promoting South Africa's national interests as well as values across the world. SABC News reporter Bulelani Phillip is at the awards and has more on that story. Bulelani, a very good evening to you. Has the Deputy President arrived to confer the awards?
Well, good evening to you, Alicia, and to the viewers at home. We are coming to you live from the Cape Town International Convention Center. Of course, this is where tonight's Ubuntu Awards will be hosted by the Department of International Relations and Cooperations. The event was launched in 2015, and of course, we've seen many people getting awarded for the great work that they do in projecting a positive image about the country. We've seen people like international comedian and Daily Show host Trevor Noah, international DJ Black Coffee, Lady Smith Black Mambazo rather, as well as internationally renowned artist Esther Mahlangu. Of course, last year, the person that scooped the OR Tambo Lifetime Achievement Award was a former IEC chairperson, Dr. Brigalia Bam. Joining me now to talk more about these awards is Clayson Monyela, a man who wears many hats. He's the moderator for these awards and head of public diplomacy. Clayson, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for your time. The significance of these awards.
Well, first, can I just say this is a fever blister for the record. You mustn't think somebody was trying to bite me. So the Annual Ubuntu Awards, this is the 8th edition of the awards. They were launched by the Department of International Relations and Cooperation because we thought it's important to recognize South Africans, individuals, organizations, companies, NGOs who in their chosen fields are excelling, at the same time flying the South African flag high on the global stage. By doing this work, they are projecting not just the positive image of our country, but by extension become ambassadors of this country. And it's important as diplomats to realize that we're not the only ambassadors of South Africa. There's South Africans who are doing this amazing work globally also represent the values of this country that we cherish, and it's important to pause annually to recognize those that would have excelled in a particular year. Some over a long period of time, because we've got a category for the OR Tambo Lifetime Achievement Award, and I think you've just referred to one of the previous winners. Yeah.
And just with regards to the categories, just give us a sense of what kind of sectors are you focusing on? Yeah,
so you would know that one of the areas that we focus on as a department, as a country, is economic diplomacy. So all the embassies that we have globally, our global footprint, one of the key areas that the Minister Naledi Pandor, has instructed our ambassadors and our diplomats to focus on is economic diplomacy. So we attract investments, FDIs back into the country. We push the file of trade with those countries. Now, there are South African companies that have also invested in the continent and also in other regions of the world. I mean, if you are in the UK, you'd probably go to about 45 outlets of Nando's. Now, when you get into any shop of Nando's, you hear South African music, you see South African paintings everywhere. It's literally home. Those are the sort of companies that we recognize in this category of economic diplomacy. And then, of course, you've got people who are excelling in sports, young people. I'm sure all of us were happy that Amabogo did what they did. And then you've got people who are excelling in cultural diplomacy, music, arts, stage, acting, film, that sort of thing. So it's various categories. So we try and cover the full spectrum of what we call diplomacy and recognize everybody who's flying the flag high.
Now, as the moderator for these awards, can you give us a sense of the shortlist or the nominees for this year's awards?
Sure, it's a very long list. I mean, for example,
just briefly.
For example, if you are talking about the cultural diplomacy category, we had a lot of people nominated. Your Tusumbedu, this lady who was the lead actor in Shaka Ilembe, I forgot her name. DJs that are doing very well, having gigs in about 12, 13 countries. So it's a very long list. The judges had a very difficult job to decide who would win. And we've got some of the high-profile people in this country presiding over as judges. Your Tebe Kalafeng, Chichima Ponya, Dr. Stembile Mbete, Ambassador Maud Lomo, Robert Marawa, Leanne Manas, your colleague. So they had a very difficult job deciding who would win in each of the categories because South Africans had nominated a lot of people.
I'm sure that's a very tough job, but let's take a focus now on international affairs. There's a proposed bill in the US Congress around reviewing the relations between the two countries. As a department, how are you receiving those news?
I expected you to ask that question. So the relations between the United States of America and South Africa are warm, cordial, and strong. And they are mutually beneficial. The U.S. understands this, and we also understand this. So these are relations that are very important to the two countries. It's not the first time that some few individuals think they must push bills of this nature, and we understand this is a reaction to South Africa taking Israel to the ICJ. So we expected some reaction, but we're not worried because the views of these individuals behind this bill are not shared by the US administration. How do I know? Because we are in constant contact with our US counterparts, both at the State Department as well as at the White House. If you were to ask Secretary Blinken, how many foreign ministers does he speak to as often as Dr. Naledi Pandor? He'll probably tell you she's the one I speak to more than the others. So we've got interactions at the highest levels because these are important relations between the two countries. So we don't think this bill will go anywhere, but obviously we are monitoring and engaging because we also have friends in the US, from think tanks to civil society to business to people at Congress itself. So we've got many friends, and as I said, the views of the individuals behind this bill are not shared by the US administration.
All right, thank you so much. Clayson Monyela, Head of Public Diplomacy at the Department of International Relations and Corporations. For more on these awards, make sure that you stay tuned to SABC News. We will be bringing you live the keynote address by Deputy President Paul Mashatile at around 7:20. For now, we're going to cross back to studio for an ad break, and Full View continues after the ad break.